Exploration of the Life of John W. Siegel by Braylon Garcia and Bradley Bochenek. Many men live a life of prosperity, a life which we all wish for, but some must follow a path no one wants to experience. A life of war and brutality can change a person. They might leave with a disciplined mindset and a new life, or come out with problems like paranoia, PTSD, and more. John W. Siegel was born March 1st, 1947 in Syracuse, New York. His father is Frederick F. Siegel and his mother is Marjorie Cheney Siegel. Mr. Siegel's father, Frederick, was a safety engineer and his mother, Marjorie, was a homemaker. His sister, Constance Rady, according to Mr. Siegel,
My father was, my mother had passed away. He was apprehensive, but he was proud that I was going. I enlisted in the Navy, and my sister, of course, the whole family was nervous, and apprehensive.
All right.
They didn't know what the future would be.
Siegel went to Penn State University for about 2.5 years. In New Jersey, he attended Rider College and he learned service management in these schools. Prior to the military, Siegel worked for a company named Gannett Fleming. He was basically a ditch digger. He also worked for the state as a traffic surveyor. Siegel said he would count cars in the intersections and maintain traffic control. Siegel enlisted into the Navy due to his grades not being the best. He believed his number was going to be pulled in the draft too. Siegel says,
So how was training, basic training, in the NTC?
It was ugly. Now, I went to Great Lakes, Illinois for basic training. I went December 18th, and Great Lakes, Illinois is a frozen iceberg, basically. The temperatures were way below zero. The training lasts about 3 months, and very regimented. Had our company commander. He was our trainer, and he wasn't a very nice person, but I got through it.
Siegel was heavily inspired to enlist in the Navy because of his uncle who was in World War II, and his dad who was in the Army. Before he joined the Navy, he wanted to fly jets. When he went to Willow Grove, PA, there was a Navy base there.
Proceed to get into the
Navy? Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing I did, like an idiot, I wanted to fly jets.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Willow Grove, PA. There was a Navy base there. And so I went and talked to somebody. He says, well, you want to fly jets? He says, how's your scene? I says, well, I have a pretty bum eye here. And they says, do you have a college graduate? I said, no. Well, get out, basically. Yeah, so I went to Harrisburg to a recruitment office, and so I signed up.
Siegel took Class A steward school. The steward's job is to make sure the officers have the basic necessities such as meals and clean living quarters and more. The rate for stewards is E1 and all the way up, but the rate was closed so you couldn't advance. Siegel switched to commissary. Siegel became an E4 before departing from the military. Siegel had many memorable moments in the military. One time while everyone was on watch, a poor young boy fell asleep standing up, so the company officer shoved a sight to his forehead. While in Vietnam, Siegel was issued 3 weapons, a K-bar, M16, and a Cal 45. In Vietnam, Siegel was stationed in 3 different places, Da Nang, Red Beach, and An Thoi. Mr. Siegel's favorite part of being in Vietnam was the beautiful sights he saw in Da Nang. It was surrounded by water. He also would drive down to the end of the runway in Air Force bases and watch the Phantom F-4 jets fly extremely fast.
During Siegel's time of service in Vietnam, he had faced many challenges. As he served in the Vietnam War, he mainly served more so to help support lieutenants and officers. He had to maintain the dietary needs of these men with the great risk at any moment of being attacked by Vietnamese, the greatest of which was his exposure to Agent Orange. This substance was a herbicide to defoliate jungles of the area where Viet Congs would lay. The substance was spread from an aircraft called a Zippo. A Zippo was similar to that of planes that were used in World War II to send troops to the beaches. Soon they were converted to monitors. These monitors would tear down the jungles, ultimately revealing locations of enemy soldiers, giving South Vietnam and the U.S. a grand opportunity to attack. Unfortunately, during the use of Agent Orange, he was infected. This caused infection to his lower body, but greatly recovered from the cancer at the VA hospital. Some people even died due to the use of this substance, which is amazing. He soon retired after recovering of his wounds left from the operation and recovered and got a compensation of $10,000 because of Agent Orange compensation. He signed off. He didn't even remember signing off on this compensation, even calling the VA and telling them there must be a mistake, as he stated.
This is, I was doing my banking. I usually call for how much money I have in my account, stuff like that, you know. And so I was at work when I did it, you know. And they said, you have $17,000 in your bank account. I said, oh, they got some poor sucker's bank account mixed up. I mean, I don't keep that much money in my bank account. It's about maybe $3,000 to cover the mortgage and some other bills. So this Friday night, I couldn't call the post office, or I call the bank. I couldn't call the VA. Wait till Monday. So Monday, I'm at work again. I call them up, and I called the VA, and they says, "All right, Mr. Siegel, that's." I said, "What's this for?" I says, "You know, it's retroactive money from when you applied for Agent Orange compensation." So I says, "What do you mean by that?" He says, "Well, you have Agent Orange and you're class 100% disabled, and you will receive at that time, it was $3,000 some money a month." So I went out on the floor at Wendy's and I says, "I'm retiring."
He concluded his service and began his life back in his community. One thing that he faced during Vietnam was the unfortunate effects of PTSD. As he returned to his home in Bayville, New Jersey, and started to tell us about his first experience with PTSD.
I work for a company called ARA Services, and we were living in Millville, New Jersey. And so I'm laying there in bed. Susie is away, and all of a sudden the house shaking, and looked out the window, and rockets are going off. Rockets are going off, you know. And I got down and I crawled out of bed down the steps on my belly, you know. I called the police. I said, "We're being rocketed. We're being rocketed." I says, "Sir," I says, "that's the celebration that Millville baseball team just won the Babe Ruth World Series."
Wow.
So I had a little PSTD. Yeah.
PTSD?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does that ever still affect you, if you mind me asking?
I don't like loud noises.
During his time of rest and recovery while in Vietnam, he kept in contact with his family through Christmas cards he used to get, or even contacting through the phone with immediate family who lived in Pennsylvania. He also did many other activities. He said,
R&R, probably drank a little bit, probably went to bars. No, I mean, I like to take, back then I used to love to take pictures. But, you know, now, the digital cameras really took the joy out of taking pictures. You know, you don't get the joy of it, anymore. You know, but I still like, still like to take pictures. And going different places. Some places I would never have seen.
During his time of service, he met many people he coincided with at the war. As Siegel came back from Vietnam, unfortunately, his great friend passed away. He was a great classmate of his, later on being buried in the Gettysburg National Cemetery. Siegel said,
I remember one situation where a friend of mine in high school, he got killed over in Vietnam.
Oh.
So we went to his funeral. He was buried in Gettysburg National Cemetery, and it was it was somber and sad and all that, but the one of the things that we did not know that, and he got killed early on, right out of like 1966. He got killed, and but we didn't know how terrible that war was gonna end up being, and but I stated to one of my friends, an old classmate of mine, I says, when Jeff David died, that was his name. He says, we all grew up that day.
"This is unfortunately the truth of life, and we have to accept the circumstances of life." Throughout Mr. Siegel's personal experience, he faced the challenges of life at war, adapting to the circumstances of enlistment in war and climbing the ranks, facing the effects of Agent Orange relationships with his family and friends and slight effects to PTSD. But he also saw new sights of the world, met new friends, and acquired greater discipline in his life, ultimately learning the unfortunate truths to life. We thank you very much for your service.